I want you to realize that this series that we are doing is very timely. It's ending today. We said the mind power is that it's a seat of learning and intelligence. It's a seat of learning and intelligence. And we said there's the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. And you are meant to engage both the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. The left side of your brain is that pragmatic aspect of you. That aspect of you that is logical. That aspect of you that is analytical. That aspect of you that wants to think through, that wants to articulate. That aspect of your mind that is mathematical, that just want to see how am I going to have a sequence to see outcome of what I want to see. And it's very powerful. Those that have developed their left side of their brain, many times they are able to execute, the things they want to accomplish. But the challenge of the left side of the brain, when you've not developed your right side, is that many times the left side of your brain can now undermine you on the possibilities of your life. Because whatever your mind, the left side of your mind cannot process out, you think it is impossible. And that's why I made a statement on Wednesday that the right side of your brain should always go ahead. The right side of your brain is where, that brain that regulates, or your mind that regulates visions. Is that mind that regulates dreams. That mind that regulates, possibilities. And you just have a persuasion within you. Persuasion that this thing is a reality. And yet, you've not been able to think through how it's going to happen. And God always starts us out with the right side of our brain. Whenever you make contact with God, that's what the Bible says, when the Spirit of God comes upon men, they are going to see what? See visions. God does not start first with explanation. Anytime you make contact with God, it's like we're in a threshold now. Habakkuk 2 said that when you stand on your watch, you will see. God always starts you out with the possibilities with you. God never speaks to your present situation. God always speaks of the realities he wants to bring you into. And so, those that have not trained the right side of their brain very well, when they see things, many times they cancel it out. They say, this is not me. No, I'm daydreaming. Have you ever heard somebody say, I'm daydreaming? Because he just feels that this one, why would my thought even go this far? Because he just feels this is not me. But you're not going to be able to do the impossible. You are not going to be able to do the supernatural. You are not going to be able to do, notable works unless you develop the right side of your brain. And so I showed you in Jeremiah chapter 1, anytime God finishes showing you something, he will ask you, what do you see? Now, what you see decides if it's going to now begin to help you unlock the left side of your brain. If you say this thing is not possible, like Jeremiah 1, he will now say, I've left it. The 12, spies, 10 came back and said it's not possible. The land eats up the inhabitants. Nobody can go there. Nobody can flourish. And he said, just as you have said, I'm going to deal with you that way. And that's how those guys died in the wilderness. And so, if you learn to train your right side of your brain, you should be someone that is open-minded. That's the starting point. You should be open-minded. You should be one that knows that, God said to him that believes all things are what? Possible. You should be open-minded. You should know there are possibilities and you can step into those possibilities. So allow the right side of your brain to always go ahead. And I want to make a statement that is very important, because many times the left side of your brain frustrates you because of your paradigm. Have you ever heard of what is paradigm? What is a paradigm? A lot of people don't know that you train your mind and you cultivate your mind to a certain pattern. Someone's paradigm is a pattern of thought in interpreting things. Now, if your paradigm has been trained wrongly, or you've built a wrong paradigm, what happens to you is even when intelligence starts coming to you to match with your dream, that intelligence will not pull through because your paradigm is already anti that intelligence that is coming. Anti. I'm telling you the simple truth. Anti. There's one day we did a men's forum here, and they were discussing forex, discussing trading online and all those kind of stuff. I was sitting behind. I did not hear anything. I did not learn anything. Because in my paradigm, I'm not going to use this thing for anything. I will never trade. That's not a way I'm going to make money. There's no need to be listening to this thing these people are saying. And so no matter what they were saying, drawing graph, drawing scarce, nothing entered. I was absent-minded. I was sitting down there, but I was not there. I was just waiting for them to finish. Now, you see, but if another person has built his mindset in such a manner that he can make money from anything, that any idea can come at any given point from any angle. Me, I'm not like that. I can't make money from everything. There are things I will never do. That is legit too, because to me it's distraction. It's distraction. I can't open a business and go and sit down there. And so you see, my paradigm concerning what they were discussing already knocked off everything. Knocked off. Like when I finished that meeting, I walked away. I started fasting and praying. I say, maybe that's how a lot of people walk into church and I'm saying a lot of things. And they are just waiting for me to finish because they can't just interpret what I'm saying. I started crying and praying. Now I'm going to show you something that will help you a lot. Psalms 36 verse 9. Psalm 36 verse 9. And so God wants to begin to shape our paradigm. That's why if you read Isaiah chapter 55, he said, my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. Please show it to them first of all. Isaiah 55. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. My ways are higher than your ways. Please, let's go there first. Isaiah 55. Is it verse 10 or verse? Find the particular verse for me. So, if God begins to work on your paradigm, the advantage you are going to have is that the dimensions of the possibilities in the thinking pattern of God will begin to be the possibilities in your thinking pattern. Remember what I said. Your right brain can be able to see possibilities, but as long as your left brain is not developed well, you'll be saying it's daydreaming. Akoko. I've seen people that pinch themselves and say, come on, wake up. Because certain thought that was reachful came. Wake up. You see you that is thinking kind of wake up. It's because their left side of their brain has not been developed in certain manner, and the paradigm of the left side of their brain has already knocked off the things the right side of their brain is trying to unlock. So he said, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. That means the paradigm dimension of God is so high. And God actually wants us to come into this dimension of paradigm. And so his patterns, his ways of doing things, his sequence of doing things, they are also higher. And so many times God shows people what he wants to do, and it's not yet done, and it will never be done because the left side of their brain has not been trained to begin to be in alignment with the paradigms of God. So we'll now see that Psalms 36 verse 9. When you see someone that almost everything he sees, he has persuasion it will happen. And next time you see him, he's processed out. It's because his paradigm is well trained. So there's a dimension that once he sees something, he knows there's possibility. And his mind tells him, I can get this thing done. So his mind is open on the sequence to think through how it will be done. Masakia kabahaya. Elerosinia kamborosetia kabahaya. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light, we see light. Remember what I told you when God commanded light in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. That light, or verse 2, is not the firmaments of the heavens. It's this light that we are talking about. So God begins to try to bring us to a place where our paradigm is in alignment with his paradigm. Where we begin to see and interpret things just the way he sees and interprets things. But our greatest challenge Let's look at Mark chapter 7, verse 13. Our greatest challenge is what I told you. You already grew up from a background. Are you getting? You grew up from a background. And they already fed you with something. There are some culture where a woman is dependent. They just grew up that way. In that whole culture, it's just normal for women to be dependent. There is another culture where women are frustrated being dependent. They are just, that is why many times you look at that culture where women are frustrated being financially dependent on their husband. You see that there are always powerful financial women in that place. You don't know the power of paradigm. And now every one of us, like I said, the way you are now, over 60% of the way you are now, you did not create it. Somebody created it. Somebody formed this personality that you are through nature and nurture. And now many times you are interpreting yourself wrongly. Now look at that, Mark 7 verse 13. And so anytime we turn our hearts to Christ, remember when one turns his heart to Christ, that veil is what? Lifted. So the devil is a master in trying to veil our mind so that the level of intelligence that should be coming out will not be there. He gives us philosophies. He gives us science. He gives us certain interpretations of life that is not correct. So every other time that God brings the word, it's a making the word of God of no effect. No matter how much God wants the word to pull through, it makes it of no effect because it's like a lens. You see through that lens. And so anything you just x-ray and it's not in alignment with that your paradigm, you trash it. You don't even wait, you just trash it. He said it makes the word of God non-effect through your tradition. This is a paradigm that has been passed down to you. This is a thinking pattern that has been passed down to you. And it has been passed down from generation to generation. So it has been systematized well in that culture. I'm telling you the simple truth. That's why culture is something that is very powerful. One of the ways to transform any organization is the culture of that organization. You don't need to be shouting too much. If you are able to just create the right culture in an organization, it can decide if they go up or go down. And you know what culture is? That's the same thing paradigm is. A belief system, a thinking pattern, a way of life, a way you interpret things, the way you respond to things, the way you relate with others. It can decide the downfall of an organization. It can also decide the rise of an organization. It can decide the downfall of a family. It can decide the rise of the family. It can decide the downfall of an individual. And also the rise of an individual. So you now see in Philippians chapter 3. I read this scripture on Sunday and want to read it again. Paul now begins to teach us that the mind, no matter the paradigm you have now, can be retrained. And how you know any paradigm is not correct is when it is undermining you. You can tell when a paradigm is undermining you. You can tell. You can tell. Wisdom has children. Wisdom has outcome. So this your paradigm that is making your husband get irritated. You should know there is something wrong about this paradigm. Even if it's the way you grew up. Even if you think that is the right thing. But you just realize that your husband is just off anytime you are relating with him. That means there's something. You need to sit back and ask yourself, this is my thinking pattern. Is it correct? You see it have negative impact in your working place. You see it have negative impact in the things you are doing. You cannot just stand strong and say, this is my paradigm, I'm not shifting. When you're already seeing the effect is not correct. Can't you see what is happening now? Children born abroad and growing abroad are learning native language now more than children here. It's a paradigm shift. Check all of them now. Why? They've realized that they have sold themselves as slaves. That if they continue this way, they've lost their ancestry while they are still alive. So by the third generation or fourth generation, your children would never come back to Nigeria. There's no connection, nothing. Then what did you live for? Don't play with these things. Man is connected to earth. That is why when God promised Abraham a land, everything, anytime they take them out of that land, what happens? God in restoration brings them back to that land. Man is connected to the ground from where he was formed, connected to the place where God brought him from. And that is why even those that were sold that many years ago are trying to do DNA to find where they came from. They want to know their roots. So you now see everybody, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, all there, they are training their people, the language. So somebody is growing up in Enugu here, the children cannot speak Igbo. But somebody is in Canada, born in Canada, is speaking Igbo fluently. And you see what's going on. The one here thinks that when the children are speaking Queen's English, King's English, wow, my child is. But the one outside there knows that English is somebody's language. Somebody's language. And so I'm going to show you. See what happened to Daniel and his friends. Immediately they came to Babylon, these guys wanted to change their name, change their language, change everything. They wanted them to lose their identity, so they will never return to where they are coming from. Have you seen that paradigm shift that has happened abroad? Is now what is making you see many of them flog their children, many of them hard on their children to learn this same Igbo that before we think that English was everything. And the ones that don't have this paradigm shift and doesn't find a way to connect their children back, after a while, the guy will realize that Obaka. Philippians chapter 3, verse 15. Philippians 3, verse 15. Please show it. I have seen paradigm deal with people. It's like matching break, but you want to move forward. Please show it. Therefore, let us, as many as are mature. So, no matter, the training the mind has received before, the mind can be retrained. That's the powerful thing about the mind. That's the powerful thing about the mind. The capacity of your mind and your brain, the memory size, you can't even use 1/4 till you get back to heaven. Go and Google it. You can't. You can't use 1/4. You can't. And so, that ability to be retrained is what can give someone the advantage, knowing that his mind, no matter what he has picked up, if he knows this thing is no longer okay, this thing is frustrating him, he must be open for training. And this time around, someone has to retrain you. The same way somebody trained you into the first shape, another person has to retrain you. And you have to make conscious effort to retraining your mind. He said, therefore, let us, as many as are mature. That means this training has developed this mind. This training is maturing this mind. Just like a child, the mind is blank. JJ and David, I'm shaping their paradigm. I'm shaping it intentionally. Then when they turn 25, they think this is the way they are. No, somebody shaped it. Somebody shaped it. And so someone that is shaping the mind of children that is not correct, this weekend is Father's Day, has already ruined the next generation. So he said, by which they traded, he said, you receive this paradigm by tradition. It was traded from generation to generation. So he's even frustrating the next generation. He said, therefore, let us, as many as are mature, have this mind. So there is a mind paradigm that you should have. Have this mind. That means there is a particular mind paradigm he's talking about. There is a particular mind pattern he's talking about. He said, and if in anything you think otherwise, your paradigm is trying to contradict this training you want to give to you. He said, go and ask God. Remember, in your light, we see light. He said, go and ask God. God will still reveal to you that this is the paradigm you should have. Turn the next verse, verse 16. He said, nevertheless, to the degree that we have already attained in that training. In that training. Oh, in that training. It's like I was saying to you something on Sunday. The paradigm I've been trained into, I cannot say I don't have. A demand cannot come and I say I don't have. It is not possible. Where I'm coming from, you cannot make that statement. As long as you are the matured, you can't make that statement. Because if you look closely, you have something. Have you seen? But there's another place where the paradigm is you don't have. What can you do? Will you kill yourself? That paradigm also governs the culture of that environment and can also decide their outcomes. So it's a paradigm. So somebody else can say, they've brainwashed you. Have you ever heard when they say somebody has been brainwashed? It's because someone has, shaped a paradigm to a point that no matter another thinking pattern that is prevalent in any place, this person will never allow the first paradigm that he has been shaped into to be knocked out. So everybody thinks he's mad. Say they've brainwashed you. Turn the next verse. It says, so that we have already attained. It says, let us walk by the same rule. And let us be of the same mind. So couples that don't grow as the years go by into the same rule and the same mind will finally grow apart. Two can't work together except they be agreed. There is nothing that drains love and emotion like argument. Oh, I've been there before. But then I can testify. Earlier times in marriage, I don't think any day can pass and we didn't argue. It was frustrating. It was draining. It's because our mind pattern was not the same. It was not. There is nothing as draining as always arguing. There is nothing as, a point came, I had to say, okay, let us define our value system. We began to work on ourselves. We began to work on that. Now we've come to a point that we almost agree in everything. So 2 days can pass, 3 days can pass, 1 week can pass, there's no argument. So now when you see the root of divorce is everyday argument. Everyday argument. There's just nothing they can agree together. Even when somebody finally agrees and that person just feels, he compromised, he took 1 step backward, so he's even feeling empty. Look at that scripture. So he said, let us be of the same mind. Look at verse 17. This is where I'm going. When you've been trained into a paradigm, I'm telling you the simple truth. He said, brethren, join in following my example. And not those who so walk as you have us for a what? A pattern. That means any other person that doesn't have that paradigm, it's like somebody coming to try to separate me from my in-laws. He's just fooling himself. No matter, do your own. There's already a paradigm that has been built in me. Have you seen? That paradigm has made me already have a pattern of interpretation of who my in-laws are and my relationship with them. So Paul says, even though that we've trained you in a manner, some people will still want to come to seduce you, want to come to bewitch you, want to come to bring certain paradigm that is not what we've trained you into. He said, look away from them. Only look at those that follow that paradigm. This thing alone shows that your paradigm can be redefined, whether good or bad. You can retrain your mind. Masaya Kabaya. Why did we go through all this? We went through all this because when God shows you the promised land, you can go there and see giants and others can see bread. It's paradigm. The other one says, if the Lord delights in us, He's going to give this to us. If the Lord delights in us. And that person always sees the impossibilities. It's a paradigm. So he's swallowed up when he can actually possess something. He's swallowed up. Masaya Kabahoya. So let me show you one more scripture. Then we'll start concluding. Okay, let's look at Daniel chapter 5, verse 11 and 12. In Daniel chapter 1, around 17, God gave them skill in learning. God trained them in certain manner, skill in unlearning. And so these guys, what it means is that everything that they want, they were interpreting or they saw, they interpreted it rightly. Skill in unlearning. They trained their mind to interpret things rightly. Imagine Solomon comes to a point that even ant teaches him. Everything, Solomon looks at something, he interprets it accurately. That's why Solomon is a wise man. He can interpret everything accurately. There was a skill given to him to interpret things accurately. And that's the same thing God did for Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel. Can we see, first of all, Daniel chapter 1, verse 17, before we get here? Daniel chapter 1, verse 17. Please show it before we look at this. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. That means there was a training God gave to these guys in the midst of University of Babylon that made them to interpret things accurately. And for Daniel, God now unlocked him with understanding a high realm of visions and dreams. The right brain of Daniel was so high. He could not only dream dreams and visions, but Daniel can interpret dreams and visions. Now let's go to that Daniel chapter 5, 11 and 12. Let your right brain always go ahead. Let it always go ahead. If your mind can think it, as long as it's something that is pure, as long as it's something that is godly, as long as it's something that is noble report, then there are possibilities you can step into it. It's a think on these things. If it's of a good report, if it's of truth, if it's noble, if it's pure and all that, there's possibility. If your mind can picture it, there is a possibility you can have that reality. And I taught you about Bara and Asa. I know many of you heard it for the first time. The tangibility of the creation starts first with Bara. God sees it that it's very real. It's very real. It's like between yesterday and today, if I tell you millions that have entered into our land project account by 2 persons. 2 persons. Those money wouldn't have come on if not that I have settled it in my heart. And now there is nothing in this world that can happen and I'll go and touch 1 naira from that account. There is no project that will come. There is no program that will come. Do you know when we started raising that money? Since last year, I have never been tempted to take 1 naira from it. If I ever touch 1 naira from it, is that God instructed, make this sacrifice so that another dimension of opening. It's because of persuasion. So I've watched that thing from 1 million, the first 1 million I dropped, to the millions that is inside there now. Because the reality is already sure. Anytime you form thing by bara, is more real. The things we don't see are more permanent than the things we see. They are more real. And what actually forms that your bara is your right side of your brain. You finish it, you create it, you see it clearly, you use your mouth and speak it forth to existence. He calls the things that be not as though they were, and it becomes a tangible product. Then you now begin to walk through your left side of your brain to do asa. But now if your left side of your brain is not correct, that's what we are talking about. If your paradigm is not correct, you will still find yourself that the realities of the right side of your brain will not be able to manifest. And that's why you need to train also this left side of your brain. He said, there is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the Holy God. He said, and in the days of your father, light and understanding. It's this same light that God commanded in Genesis 1 verse 2. Light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods. In his light we have light. Were found in him, and King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. You know who these people are? These are the wise people of that time. When you hear 3 wise men came from the east to meet Jesus Christ, it's these people: sorcerers, astrologers. Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas. That means there's nothing you bring to him that he cannot break down. He's a consultant. Anytime you want to do something, you have a vision, you have a dream, bring it to him. He will look at it and break it down for you on how to execute. That's what this place is talking about. Were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. Not now let Daniel be called, and he will do what? Give what? The interpretation. And once Daniel arrived, what happened? The interpretation was clear. It's a training. It's a training of the left side of your brain. But it requires dimension of the spirit. It requires dimension of the skill of the spirit to give you that level of training. It requires the dimension of the level of the training of the spirit. So we're going to look at Proverbs 20 verse 5. I said something to you that the capacity of your mind, many people will not even tap into 1/4 before they meet their maker. They won't tap into 1/4. If they know how intelligent they are, they will not despise themselves. If they know how intelligent, you don't know how intelligent you are. That's why I don't envy anybody. That's why for me, there is nothing somebody does I feel is intimidating. I'm telling you the simple truth. We were taught ahead of time, whenever you see somebody doing something that you are not doing that you want to do, 3 things: celebrate the person publicly and around people. 2, honor the person. Find a way to honor the person in your heart and outward. Number 3, find a way to come closer to understudy the person. Find a way, get the person's material. Find a way to just, because that thing that you are seeing, wisdom produced it. So there is nothing that you see outside there you cannot do. I'm telling you the simple truth. That's why we are not better when we start something is small and people have big things. We are not moved at all. Those things also were small in time past. Somebody built it. So look at that Proverbs chapter 20 verse 5. Counsel in the heart of man is like deep water. Intelligence in your mind is like deep water. You will need something to draw it, so you can have a well in your compound and not draw water, because you don't have a fetcher. He said, but a man of understanding. Who is a man of understanding? A man that has trained his mind correctly to interpret things will do what? Draw it out. Anytime something is not working, sit back, withdraw, create a quiet time. Deep in your heart is the wisdom to handle that. Deep in your heart. If you withdraw, you will be able to pull understanding from your inside. But it's like deep waters. It's like deep waters. Let me mention 5 things that I do, and which I also learned, that can help you grow your IQ, help you grow your intelligence quotient, help you, develop your mind, that it can interpret things. It's as if you are so intelligent, but you are not that intelligent. The first thing is to challenge your mind. How do you challenge your mind? It's simple. Allow the right side of your brain to challenge the left side of your brain. Always dream things bigger than what your mind can interpret in the first place. Always. You want to set goals for the year. You want to set plans for your organization. Always dream something that is so big that you have given your left brain task to brainstorm. Anything you don't challenge, it will not come out. I was playing with mathematics in my first in the secondary school till I realized you cannot get into university without mathematics. You can't. And now the funny thing is that when I was cheating, I did not pass the maths. Now I've given my life to Christ. Now I don't see half credit in maths, and now I cannot ask anybody. How am I now going to get in admission? When I talk to people in my first WAEC in school, it did not work. I did GC, it did not work. I did another WAEC, it did not work. As an unbeliever, carrying paper, talking to people. Now I'm now left alone to now do the same mass without asking anybody. You know, some of you, like the lady that came to brag, now they will collect her certificate. You know the lady now? From the time I gave my life to Christ till now, nobody can ever say I asked him in the exam, oh, let me fail that course. I had to task my mind. And I realized I can actually break down this mathematics. I not only passed it, I did WAEC again and GCA, passed 2 of them, did my jam, passed it, even went and did accounting. Because now you have to keep calculating. You are not tasking this side of your brain, because the things that come from me are not challenging. They are not challenging. It doesn't drive you to. Many times I wake up in the night, I can stay 2 hours rolling on my bed. It's because there are always things to do, bigger than me. I'm thinking, how am I going to resolve this now? How am I going to handle this now? So I wake up, the sleep lifts my eyes. Yet it's that time men are sleeping that God brings instruction. And I'm just thinking, what next? How am I going to handle this? Because my projects are always bigger than me. They are always bigger than me. That's the way to challenge your mind. And so it leads you to brainstorming. And you are going to pull counsel out. The second is what Pastor Gideon was teaching, the matter of meditation. People who don't meditate can never pull out counsel. Meditation. It's not about reading Bible. It's about picking things you want to do. It's that we're talking about threshold now into the second half of the year. You need to withdraw and meditate. You need to withdraw and meditate. You pay attention. He said, meditate on these things. That's where it starts. Why is this thing not moving forward? Why is this thing this way? What is stagnating it? You meditate. Out of it, you are going to unlock your mind, into frequencies. Into frequencies that are higher than what you have now. Number 3, like I told you, the mind is like a garden. What you sow into it decides what you cultivate. Some of you, social media has finished you. It has finished you. When we look at your mind, it's weed. It's grass. It's a field of grass. Because you don't have the culture to be intentional in sowing knowledge. Now look at what knowledge does for you. When you cultivate knowledge in a thing again and again, that knowledge forms a template that now interprets every other thing. That's why, I don't know how to say it to you. Some people open the Bible, every time it's looking as if it's boring. It's because you've not invested much in Bible. If you invest much in the knowledge of Bible, a point comes, a template is formed. Anytime you open Bible, anywhere you turn, you see wisdom. Because that template begins to interpret every other thing. Many of us don't have the habit of studying. We don't have the habit of reading. Read more. Read more. Read more. Get books in the direction of the things you want to do. Read. I told you I was going for NYC. Kiyosaki was reading that time. All his books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. All his books. I took it and sat down one year and read all of them. All of them. On the other side, I took spiritual books of Kenyon and all that and read. I was preparing my mind. You must have money to run life. You must have money to run life. You can't make excuses. You can't make excuses. So I was training my mind on matter of money and how to grow money and maximize money. If money is disturbing you, it's not to work harder. Go and learn money. Go and learn money. Humble yourself. Get books of money. This one, you keep working, you keep doing business. Money is not coming. It's because you've not learned money. Tell yourself the simple truth. Anything that is not working, you've not learned it. You've not learned it. So you get books. The more you cultivate your mind, they look into your mind. It's like a garden. A garden well cultivated. A garden watered well. So anywhere you walk into, you open your mouth, they know there is wisdom. And the things you build, you just see wisdom flowing in it. Then the number 4 is what God actually did for Daniel then. Is what God did for Daniel then. Daniel and his friends and every one of them were people that had this dimension of always looking out for opportunity to learn. The matter of skill. Do you know, okay, this year now, which skill have you acquired for yourself? What have you exposed yourself to? We're not just talking about information. Which skill are you sharpening? Which new skill are you trying to come into? Which opening have you opened for yourself to dive into new opportunities of learning? That's why picking first degree, picking second degree, people say it's a waste. When will you use it? It's a lie. It's a lie. If it's a waste, I won't allow myself to be wasting money on Pastor Ena's masters. And I'm going to start my own also. Someone say, what are you going to do with it? What I'm doing with it is that I'm developing my mind. Reading Bible does not develop your mind. It renews your mind. It renews your mind. Developing your mind and renewing your mind is not the same thing. So there are a lot of people, their minds are renewed, but there's nothing you can put in their hand. Their minds are not developed. It's those trainings, those skills you are acquiring. Can you stay like this? You don't know how to drive. You think it's when you get a car, you learn how to drive. No. 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 Always look out for a skill. The next time this skill. The next time this skill. Those things unlock you, because as you are trying to acquire that skill and develop that skill, you are pushing your brain. You are pushing your mind beyond the boundaries it is. You are pushing it. That boundary now is unlocked for many other things to open up. Please ask your neighbor, which skill do you want to acquire this year? Turn to a number and say, which skill do you want to acquire this year? Sometimes it's just, every time I was using WhatsApp, I will chat somebody. If I made mistake, I will delete it and write again. I will delete it. Then one day, I was with Stephanie. Stephanie sent something. I said, you've made a mistake. He said, let me edit it. I thought there was special app in Stephanie's phone to edit what she has sent. And I was watching her. When she finished doing that, I said, can I do it also? She said, yes, now there's edit in your own. Now look at all they say. Sometimes I write something long, I delete it. You don't know little skills you are not acquiring. Little opening, what is doing to you. You don't know what it's doing. Just little skill, little opening to know what can unlock. Come on, I said, so this thing has been in my phone. And even as I'm saying it to some of you, you are just hearing it for the first time. I'm serious. Why I left school with 2.2 is because I did not know how to calculate GP. I learned how to calculate GP when I went for masters. My friend will always come from first year, first semester. He was even, because he grew up in the campus. He had an uncle that was a professor in UNN. So he grew up in the man's house. So first year, first semester, my brother, Pastor Emeka, came with, those cards they used to sell how to calculate GP. That's the way he made his first money. And I was not humble enough to ask him this thing. He will come, he will say, this course is 4 unit load, I must make it A. I did not understand what he was talking about. Even when others were talking about that, I'm telling you the simple truth. My own is if I make C, thank God, I make B. Sometimes I made a particular course. I'm not joking. I made a particular course C. Pastor Emeka made it B. Pastor Emeka kept complaining. I said, what is wrong with you? I made C, you say, Pastor, you don't understand. I can't make this course B. It's even better I made the other one C. I did not understand that. We went for ABSU to now start training other first years. So I was sitting there in what they call DSL. And somebody was training people GP. That's when I learned it the first time. How can I live with first class? Never. How can I live with 2-1? Because I was not intentional. I did not know that you don't pass by grade, you pass by GP. You pass by the target you give yourself per semester. I thought it was by grade. Have you seen someone that is a student now that has not learned the skill of calculating GP can never live with first class? Never. One little course, he will just fool around. If you know what skill can do to you. Please be open. Find a way. Always try to acquire skill. Find a way to learn things. Don't always think, this one I can't learn it. This one, no. No, be open-minded. Always look out for opportunity to learn. Those things are developing your mind. One of my mentors said, if I leave Enugu without doctorate degree, what he will do to me. Even if I don't want to do the doctorate degree, I must wait. He said, university is surrounding you. And he's a professor. He said, you will stay there how many years and not come out with doctorate degree? Pastor, am I using it for CV? So why is he asking me to go and do it? That's the difference between excellent ministries and backward ministries. Development of their mind. The fifth is surround yourself with intelligent persons. Proverbs 13 verse 20. Surround yourself with intelligent persons. He who walks with wise men. I don't deal with fools. That's my principle. I don't deal with fools. I don't. I'm telling you, you know what is dealing with somebody? Having a walk with somebody. Is one thing that you are mentoring somebody. Is another thing that you are having work with somebody. Is another thing somebody is mentoring you. Once I see somebody is a fool, I know I'm not in his class. I can't have a walk with that person. If I'm not in the position of mentoring the person, I start withdrawing. I did it in this Enugu. I do it everywhere. Because that person is going to corrupt my mind. Evil communication corrupts. It's going to corrupt my wisdom. As I'm talking with him, it's going to corrupt my wisdom. So when I just discern is a foolish person, I withdraw from that fellowship. Your wisdom can be corrupted. Just deal with fools. You will corrupt your wisdom. But if you surround yourself with intelligent people, you will be wiser. Please bow down your head.